Hello everyone, Tommy with Studio Sense here. Hope your day is going great, but I'm glad that you're taking a little bit of time out of your busy schedule to sit down with me or stand up with me or ride your vehicle with me and listen as you're driving on your commute to work or whatever it is that you're doing, cleaning the house, writing that next great American novel. Today's video is specifically for those who have to jump in a vehicle, jump in a car, get on their bike, motorcycle, whatever, and go to a brick and mortar location for work. Because today's workspaces are a little bit different than they were years ago. People are a little bit more savvy, a little bit more aware of the space and the air around them. That's why there's that whole joke about the cologne guy, the guy that takes a bath in his fragrance. Whenever he walks by the cubicle, people just kind of drop by the dozens because of the very heavy, strong, powerful fragrance that he's wearing. In many workplaces, there are signs printed talking about please don't wear fragrance or please don't wear cologne. You got to be aware and respectful of everyone's needs, but there are fragrances that are structured specifically for the workspace. Not only are they strong enough to last all day, but they're subtle. They're not gut-punching, overbearing, loud, and they typically won't cause someone to go into an asthmatic attack. When we return, I'm going to talk about 10 fantastic, very distinctive, fresh, masculine, and cheap fragrances specifically for the workplace. That and more right after this. Welcome back, everyone. Now, if you're like me and you're lucky enough to work from home, you can sit in a chair in your PJs, or what I term play J's, work all day long without worrying about being in someone else's space. But most people still work at a brick and mortar location, whether it's an office, a warehouse, a distribution center. They have to work around other people. Well, what if you're an aficionado of fine fragrance? What is a guy to do? As I mentioned in the intro, there are fragrances that are structured to not only last all day long, but they're not so loud or strong enough as to invade someone else's space. And these fragrances are also extremely inexpensive, the ones that we're going to talk about today. Now, most of them have been around for a while and proven themselves, but I do want to say, if ever you're afraid of what you're wearing is going to be overbearing, stick to the 2-spray rule. Don't spray more than 2 sprays of whatever it is that you're wearing. 2 sprays isn't going to be overbearing to most anyone. In most cases, 2 sprays is typically enough to be noticed and yet not overbearing. So just keep that in mind with all of the fragrances that we're talking about today when it comes to working in a space with other people. The first fragrance that's strong enough to last all day yet subtle enough to be able to wear in the workspace is one by Salvatore Ferragamo. It is Acqua Essenziale Blue. Acqua Essenziale Blue came out in 2014. It's a great example of aroma chemicals finely tuned to be long-lasting yet not overbearing. It has a very bright citrus open. It'll put you in mind of fragrances like Versace Pour Homme. It has kind of a blue aquatic aspect as well, and it's super fresh. It's like one of those fragrances you want to spray on right out of the shower, but again, it's not loud, it's not overbearing, it's just subtle enough to be enjoyed by other people, but it's not going to smack them in the face. You'll notice something missing in most all of these fragrances, and that is resins, incense. In most cases, it's not going to be heavy, sweet. The key word here is strength in subtlety. I've used that phrase before, and that's exactly what all of these are. And a great example of that is Brioni Eau de Parfum. Now, this is in the shape of a fine Italian suit. You know, you got your shoulders here, and it kind of narrows or tapers as suits do. Magnetic lid. This to me is a perfect example of what an office or workspace fragrance should be. It's refined enough to be worn in any situation, whether it's suit and tie or casual, and yet it has that modern amenity feel that we want our blue fragrances to have and to carry. Brioni, the EDP, is the pillar fragrance of the line for their men's fragrance. They have since had several come out, but I still feel like this one's just a bit better. Brioni EDP Essenziale is also a good example of a good office fragrance going towards the more pine, forest, green meadow, vetiver category. But this, I believe, is just a bit better. Another great example of an affordable office fragrance that lasts most of your work day, but is subtle enough not to offend anyone, has actually been a little bit maligned by the fragrance community, but I really enjoy it. It's Coach Blue. Coach Blue came out in 2020, and people immediately picked up and were like, yeah, it smells good, but it doesn't last. It's got really poor performance. It's got subtle sillage. The performance is just okay. It's middling to average in terms of, you know, you're going to get about 6 to 7 hours, which is most people's people's work day, so it's going to last long enough, but then the sillage, it doesn't have this atomic scent bubble. This is a great combination of lime, absinthe, and a note called ozone. Ozone is like a burst of fresh air. You know when you've been sitting in front of a computer for a while and you're like, I need to take a break. And so you go outside and the air hits you and you take a deep breath of that fresh air, and how refreshing that is. That's ozone. And ozone, specifically like after a storm, that fresh kind of lightly bitter, almost electric kind of smell. And ozone in a fragrance just adds that fresh appeal to it, and that's definitely in Coach Blue for men. Blue fragrances are a perfect genre for most office-oriented fragrances, and a great example of another strong yet subtle fragrance in that category is Davidoff Cool Water Parfum. Parfum edition of the very popular Cool Water fragrance. I really like what Davidoff did with this. They kind of tuned it up a little bit. Some have made the obvious comparisons with Invictus or Sauvage. It's more of an ode to its versatility than this is mimicking either one of those. This is fresh, clean, masculine, woodsy, fruity with a bit more of a youthful drive to it, but it is perfect for the office space. Very inexpensive as well, of course, as Davidoff often is. We've talked about fragrances that have a lot of citrus notes in them, but anybody that wants to kind of avoid a citrus fragrance, or you're not really in tune with citrus or blue fragrances, should give For Him Vetiver Musc a go. It's a modern, fresh, very green, lightly vetiver-esque. This isn't as much of a vetiver fragrance. It's a unique kind of green, seaweed, vegetal, musky. Honestly, it's more refreshing than you might think, and maybe even more refreshing than the vetiver chord that this was trying to go for. I think this kind of under-promised but over-delivered in some areas. It's an extremely pleasant, long-lasting, musky fragrance that no one could find offensive, and thus it makes it perfect for the workplace. Plus, of course, it's very inexpensive. This next inexpensive fragrance is so cheap that I think many people think that it's a cheap quality fragrance, or is not going to be that good, or is a knockoff of something, and yet that couldn't be further from the truth. It is very much under the radar and underappreciated gem by Emmanuel Ungaro, and it is Fresh for Him. Hot on the heels of the original Ungaro For Him fragrance for men, this is the second one, and by far much more finely crafted fragrance. It's a lot better than you might imagine. If you've never tried this before, guys, it's super enjoyable. It comes straight out of the bottle, a super citrusy, zesty, lemon lime kind of fresh bergamot fragrance with an underlying kind of floral, somewhat, there's like mimosa and violet leaf. There's a definitive violet heart resting on a wet, grassy, earthy green patchouli and vetiver. Super fresh and enjoyable, and everything 4711 tries to be in their fragrance, which is also really good, but I would reach for this one first every time. Emmanuel Ungaro's Fresh for Him. In 2023, Hugo Boss released Hugo Intense. Now, what I like about Hugo Intense is not only the beautiful flagon, the red bottle is really cool, the canteen style bottle, but the fact that the fragrance is so long lasting. It's got really good, you're talking about 8+ hours performance, but it's not, that intensity is in how long it lasts, not how loud, not how voluminous it is. It's not one of those fill a room kind of smack you in the face, force you to have a fragrance reckoning kind of fragrance. And so that's what makes it perfect for the workspace. It's almost like a retro fragrance with a modern twist. This would also be great for after work gatherings like a date night. It still has that spicy apple cinnamon that Hugo Boss fragrances are known for, with again a bit more of a modern twist that makes it perfect for parties, gatherings, date nights, things like that. It's not overly sweet, and it has just a bit of refinement to it as well, and it's very inexpensive. It's an ode to the color red, everything from red apple to red leather and red thyme, but taken as a whole altogether, it's just a very refreshing, fruity kind of fragrance. Now the next fragrance is a little bit heavier on the sweet. It is a gourmand fragrance, but I like the subtlety of the plum chutney that's used. Chutney, if you don't know, is like a, it's almost like a paste or a marmalade that's mixed of certain spices with chopped fruit. It almost adds like a dark, meaty, fruity, like a blood orange, plum kind of effect to the fragrance. I would never typically say wear a gourmand fragrance at the office, but this one is light and subtle enough, and it has that just enough sweetness in it to be enjoyed by pretty much everyone. Plus, again, it's not super loud. It's just intimate enough for the people around you to enjoy without it being overbearing. Just a wonderful light gourmand fragrance. It's very inexpensive because it's Pepe Jean's London. The next fragrance is perfect for the office, is strong enough to last all day, it's subtle enough not to offend anyone. For those of you that are looking for an alternative to a blue fragrance like Bleu de Chanel or Versace Dylan Blue or one of those standby blue fragrances that have been out for a very long time, this one is actually Rochas L'Homme. Rochas L'Homme is kind of Rochas' answer to their definitive blue pillar fragrance. It kind of flew under the radar for a while, but a lot of people lauded it for its aromatic goodness and how inexpensive it is, how accessible of a fragrance that it is. This one is blood orange, pineapple, geranium, basil, some nice fresh juniper, light fruity, but more in line with a typical blue fragrance, but surprising quality. Very distinguished fragrance, but can be worn casually as well as it can be worn dressed up. Rochas L'Homme is also a very inexpensive fragrance, just like all of these, and that's what makes it a perfect workplace fragrance. This next fragrance makes me ask the question, who is Louis and why is he so poor? Of course, I'm referring to an L1212 fragrance, Pour Louis French Panache by Lacoste. This is a 2019 release. It kind of came out with some others of the L1212 and kind of, again, flew under the radar, and it's one of those that not a ton of people have tried out. It has that fresh, clean, crisp white t-shirt effect that all of the L1212 fragrances have because its primary focus is on fruits. But this time, lemon zest, red apple, mandarin. In the base, though, is a very interesting combination of narcissus, patchouli, and sandalwood, which makes this a subtle yet very strong and long-lasting fragrance. Again, subtle enough to have a relatively close sillage, but when someone smells it on you, they're going to be like, wow, that smells fresh, clean, masculine, fruity, woodsy. French Panache is just that. It has that panache. It ticks off all the boxes of what most guys look forward to in a workspace fragrance. And again, very inexpensive, just like all of these are. Well guys, that's a wrap on 10 fragrances that are strong enough to last all day long at the workplace, to be right there with you as you're finishing up your TPS reports, and yet not overbearing so as to offend anyone. All of these are crowd pleasing and to a point, even compliment pulling, yes, even at work. But let me know what you guys think. Have you worn any of these? Do you own any of them? Which are your favorites if you do? And if I missed any in this list that are perfect for the workplace, strong enough to last all day long, yet subtle enough not to offend anyone, let everyone know what those are in the comments too. I certainly appreciate that. Thanks for coming along for the ride today. I appreciate your time. As always, thank you so much for your continued support on my channel. I'm Tommy with Studio Sense. You and your family stay safe out there, and I'll see you tomorrow with another video review.